Okay, hopefully this works. Okay, cool. So, schedule is a little funky. Did you sleep and enough?
Yeah.
Perfect. Just getting started. Normally I would have assigned your groups for the group project today, but because we had people adding late and all that good stuff, we got a couple people out. We will do that on Monday, okay? Which is a fun experiment for me, so you have something to look forward to Monday, right? So because of that, today, not something we typically do in here, but a little lecture heavy, but it's not too terribly long. And when I do this, it's actually cool and awesome and interesting. At least it should be. If you find it boring, then that's your fault, because I'm pretty awesome and humble. Okay. So we'll get into what this is. That we'll do next time. Okay. That's for next time. Any of these companies you haven't heard of? Heard of some of them, right? Heard of Uber? Okay. Do you know what Bird's Eye is? What is it? Frozen food. Yep. That was actually the dude's last name. His last name was Bird's Eye. Okay. Netflix, obviously. 5 Hour Energy. Corning is a glass company that's been around for, I think, like almost 200 years now. It's at least 150 years old. Right? What each of these companies did was come up with a new solution to an old problem. Right? Uber. We had taxis. They never took card. If they did, the card thing never worked. They never had correct change. Cars were always shit, right? Like dirty, couldn't find them, weren't available. And so Uber's just took a problem that already existed and came up with a new solution. Bird's Eye came up with frozen food. Dude goes up north, sees people, I think he was in Canada, and he sees people catching fish, right, and throwing them right in the ice and saving it for a long time. And he's like, why don't we freeze more food? We didn't have frozen food. If you can imagine that, like there was no frozen food section in grocery stores. There were no cars or trains to transport frozen food. The dude revolutionized an entire section of food, right? All on his own from a different idea of how to make things last longer, in particular vegetables. Okay? Netflix. We'll talk about Netflix a few times and how they varied, right? So they start, as students who don't believe me, I don't think you guys are that young, they used to mail you DVDs. I've had students be like, no. Okay. That's how they started. They knew they were going digital, right? But the bandwidth wasn't there yet and the quality wasn't there yet. So they started by mailing them, and you could have them forever, right? Like they never even like bother you. Like a sequel to a movie could come out and you still had the first one at home. Right? 5 Hour Energy, different energy drink, right? Coffee, all that good stuff, and why they started a little different, a little unique. Corning, been around a long time, but glass evolved. And when Steve Jobs was coming up with the iPhone with Apple, he wanted to use plastic. He thought it made more sense. They couldn't get it to work. The whole time, Corning was sitting there like, hey, we can do this. We have really cool shit. They were making glass products for things that didn't even exist yet. Okay? They just knew that they were finding better new ways to make glass. Right? All of these took an old problem and found a new solution. These are called category kings. This is all out of the book that I said is not required. So if you're interested at all or you want to learn more about it, this is all in the book. As I said, it's actually entertaining. The guys are pretty funny. They all had failures and they all had successes, so worthwhile. But I'll summarize it because none of you ever read. The most exciting companies create. It's a new way of thinking things or doing business. There's no new ideas left. There's nothing left, right? Okay, everything's pretty much been invented. Okay, it's just a different way to do it, right? And you can be very successful coming up with a slightly different way of doing business, right? They solved a problem we didn't know that we had. We had taxis, we just didn't know that they all sucked, and there was a better solution. Here we go with Uber. Okay. Exciting companies do not sell us better, they sell us different. This is where Apple absolutely reigns supreme. Okay? If we were to ask consumers, what do you want before the iPhone, they wouldn't have come up with that. What Apple does is come up with cool shit and then tell us that we want it. Okay? And most companies aren't very good at that. Right? Companies that create, develop, and dominate a new category is called a category king. If you want, I'll send this all to you. Okay? Just one cool product does not make it a category king. I'll give you some examples of that here in a little bit. Okay? Category kings take it upon themselves to design a great product and a great company and a great category all at the same time. Right? Just because you come up with a killer product doesn't mean you're going to make it. Right? Got a good idea for a company, no product, might not make it. Okay? They endure and create value over time. They own the problem that they are solving. We'll talk about Lyft compared to Uber, but Uber owned the problem that they were solving. Okay? They became the symbol of the category. Everybody know what Xerox is? What do they make? What does Xerox make? It's a little older, but they make copiers, printers. Okay? Google. The former president of Texas A&M came from University of Washington, where Microsoft, right, is like right there and pays for everything. And when he first came to A&M, he would say, you know, people say you Google something, he would say Google or Bing. Bro, nobody uses Bing, like, and certainly doesn't use that word. Okay, and then IKEA, right? IKEA for inexpensive furniture, right? And their meatballs. The timing of when they happen. Do you have to have good timing? No. You get lucky, okay? Bird's Eye started during the Great Depression. Google came out when websites were crashing like crazy. Everybody was making boatloads of money with websites, and then it all fell apart. Airbnb came out in the 08-09 financial crisis. Okay? You don't have to launch at the perfect time. There is no perfect time. Most category kings are once in a lifetime. If you're truly dominant, game changer, want to be a billionaire, I think the donor for this building, Mr. Perko, gave $30 million? I don't remember. It was millions of dollars, okay? So when you guys are billionaires, just remember Sam, Dr. Payne, okay? Write a check, $10 million, okay? A few are really good at it. Steve Jobs. Does everybody know who Steve Jobs is? What did Steve Jobs create? Apple, right? Along with Wozniak, needed his help. Elon Musk, who's that? Tesla, SpaceX, PayPal, yeah, multiple things. Got hair, right? You get a lot of money, you get hair. Bezos, he got muscles. He just works out now, right? He's all yoked. Bezos came up with Amazon. Yeah, so a few people are good at coming up with lots of them. Former category kings. Chrysler came up with the minivan. Game changer. Right? Told my wife, never. Never owning a minivan. Okay, she's on board with that. But the minivan was a game changer, right? If you had a family, you had a big ass station wagon, right? And it was a boat. You had the seat in the back with like no seat belts, right? If you've seen Vacation, you know, the old Chevy Chase ones, not the new ones. Minivan was a game changer. Right, the sliding doors, it's easy to get kids in and out, all that good stuff. The Boeing 707 was a game changer in global transportation. Anybody think about getting a master's? I'm out. I was with you. I took 10 years between bachelor's and master's. Okay, you might come back. You might, but I was right there with you. Okay, if you do, if you get a master's or an MBA or anything like that, you'll hear about this dude Peter Drucker endlessly. We came up with management thinking, some good stuff. Elvis, okay, basically patented rock and roll. He didn't come up with it; he just packaged it. Okay, all of those guys are former category kings. All right, Peter Thiel, who also helped come up with PayPal, said every monopoly. A monopoly is if you own the category. If you dominate, if you're the only one in the market, right? Every monopoly is unique, but usually they share some combinations of the following characteristics. Proprietary technology, that means they own the technology, nobody else does, right? Network effects. Network effect means, has anybody heard of that before? Does anybody know what it means? The network effect means everybody wants one. As soon as you want one, you want one, you want one. right? It spreads like wildfire, okay? Economies of scale. This has to do, does anybody know what that means? 4 years in ag business, we ever heard these terms? Huh? Yeah, the more you make, the less expensive it is to produce, okay? And then branding, okay? They all have a combination of those characteristics, right? All happy companies are different. Each one owns a monopoly by solving a unique problem. All failed companies are the same. They failed to escape competition. All right, so what are your odds? Huh? Slim, okay? Doesn't mean it can't be done, right? I'm all for trying it and starting out, especially when y'all are young and broke and have nothing to lose, okay? If there's 10,000 startups that are funded by angel investors, we'll get into funding later, okay, this semester. 1,500 will have a venture capitalist fund them. 80 will likely do well. That means I got my $1 million home, I'm hunting or golfing or on the beach or whatever for the rest of my days. 12 will become Tesla or Amazon or Uber, okay? But it can be done. Data is power. All of these know a lot of shit about you. Have you guys heard of Salesforce? Okay. Do we know what CRM means? Anybody? Customer Relations Management. Trying, man. I don't blame you. Okay. Apparently, ag business is letting you down. Everybody. Okay. Amazon. You ever been talking to somebody, right? And you open your phone and there's like an ad for the thing you were talking about. It's freaky shit, right? Amazon knows everything about you. Everything. It is terrifying. Okay. So does Uber, where you like to go, where you like to eat, what time you left the bar, okay, where your side piece lives, all of that, okay? Salesforce.com, all right, so what CRM is, right, is to track all the customer data, right? And so if any business, you have sales, right, and you need to know about your customers, when are they running out, when do they buy, what do they like to buy, all that stuff. Used to be like desktop software, right? Then they went to the cloud and made it way easier for everybody, update, all that good stuff. Salesforce.com was a game changer in terms of managing customer software so that companies could make more money, right? Netflix knows everything you watch, right? Recommends all kind of stuff. It's a little bit creepy, right? All of these create an unfair advantage, all right? Trying to start something new like Amazon is going to be hard. Doesn't mean it can't be done, okay? But it's going to be hard. Uber in 2020 is worth $75 billion. Any guesses how much Lyft is worth? 13. Not bad. I'm good. I can probably get by. Okay. Maybe hamburgers instead of steaks, but I can probably get by. But that's what Uber's worth. 75 billion as of last year compared to 13 billion for Lyft. All right. Now, there's luck and skill. Okay. Just like anybody play poker, anybody gamble, degenerates like myself. No. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, that's fair. Neither do I. I'm a professor. Okay. Luck and skill are not on the same axis, though. Okay? Be realistic about how much luck is involved, and after that, just kind of ignore it. Okay? You have to think about the smartest decision for the long term. We'll talk about that this semester too. That's something that people have a really hard time with. And good outcomes don't happen by accident. Right? Yes, sometimes you get a little lucky, but usually it has to do with hard work. Creating a great product along with the experience, a great company, and a great category at the same time, right? This is what has to go into your design, all right? You have to have broad, deep discipline that impacts every part of the company and its leadership. Bill Gates started what? Right now? Bill Gates? Microsoft, okay? And Jeff Bezos with Amazon. They were notorious assholes. They were really hard on people that worked for them, people they paid a lot of money to. Because nobody cared as much as they did. They lived, eat, breathed their company because they wanted it to be successful, right? And if people didn't care as much as them, which most of them didn't, even if they did care, they didn't care as much, it bothered them a lot, okay? So that's something that you really have to keep in mind. It's really hard. If you actually start something, you're literally, people relying on you for salaries, right, to make a living, all that good stuff, okay? Bill Gates said, I never took a day off in my 20s, not one. So you gotta be able to work with folks, right? You ever heard of Jawbone? Nobody? Okay, it's fun. All right, so as cell phones are getting more and more popular a few years back, it's still like early in the game for Bluetooth. It's not really in the picture, kind of exists, kind of doesn't, right? California comes out and says, no, you can't talk on your cell phone while you're driving, right? So they come up with a hands-free, noise-canceling headphones, right? First one to market, have to have it, right? If you want to drive and talk on your cell phone, which everybody did before they texted and drove like you guys do, right? You had to have a headset to go, or you get a ticket, right? Then they came up with a Bluetooth speaker, Jambox. And they also came up with, does anybody have a Fitbit? Or had? Okay. They came up with the same thing called a UP3. They came up with all these first. Before other Bluetooth speakers, before other headsets, before Fitbit. They were first. 3 times. Y'all have never heard of them. Right? They fucked up. Right? They had the right product, but they didn't get it. They didn't capitalize on winning in the category. Okay? They came up with all these first, and because of their marketing, because of different things, they did not dominate the market like they should have. It's pretty hard to come up with 3 winners like this and miss every time, and they did. So it can happen. All right. Was Apple the first to come up with the home computer? No. They simply made it easier to use. Right? Was Facebook the first social media website? Nope. So what's funny, actually, did anybody have MySpace? Oh man, nice. Okay. So what happened with MySpace when Facebook, started? You had to have a .edu email to be on Facebook at first, which is what made it cool and exclusive, right? It was just college students. Right? Then they opened it up to everybody, and everybody's parents and grandparents got on there. And for a little bit, there was actually a shift of college students back to MySpace, right? Because they didn't want to be on the same social media as their parents and grandparents, which is pretty funny. Right? So MySpace, colossal failure, right? Do you know how much the owners sold it for? Remember Tom? He was your first friend. Tom was your first. 520 million. Tom doesn't work anymore. Okay. Just travels. Yeah, just travels the world, and he's a photographer. Okay. So as a failure, he made $500 million. All right. Was Tesla the first electric car company? No. And you know what Elon Musk actually did with a lot of his patents? He made them public. Why? Why would he do that? So special stuff, patents for electric cars, how to make them run longer, better, and all that stuff. He said, anyone can make this. Why? No, because when you have the patent, you own it, so you get all the rights. When the patent expires, anybody can make money off of it. Bingo. He figured if Ford or Chevy or Volvo or Toyota or whoever else started making electric cars, he would sell more cars. And he was right. He's doing okay for himself. Right? All of these are different. They're not necessarily better, right? They were just different, right? So you don't have to be first. Cool. I think that's it. We'll pop this on. She comes up.
You booked a sunny Barbados ski chalet with endless views of snow-covered peaks.
Okay. I'll show you this. It's pretty short, 15 minutes, 13 minutes, okay? This is a few years old, as you can see, which actually makes it interesting because of some of the things he talks about. At the time, it's probably still that way. This company was the most applied to company in the country for anyone getting a master's in business. Anybody getting an MBA, this was the most applied to company in the entire country, right? And I think you'll see why. Cool. I'm gonna turn this video and send it.
Now CBS This Morning co-host Charlie Rose on assignment for 60 Minutes. Tonight we're going